Most people overlook the Honda Shadow 750 because it doesn't try to impress you, and honestly, that's exactly why I think the 2026 version deserves attention. In a world full of loud exhaust notes, massive touchscreens, and look-at-me styling, the Honda Shadow 750 feels almost stubbornly simple. When I first looked at it, I thought, is this thing even trying to compete anymore? Then I spent time really analyzing it, and I started to see the point. What surprised me was how intentional the simplicity feels. The 745cc V-twin isn't chasing crazy horsepower numbers. It's tuned for smooth, usable torque. When I compared it to bigger cruisers, especially some 900cc or even 1100cc options, I noticed something interesting. The Shadow doesn't make you work for it. Throttle response is predictable, power delivery is linear, there's no sudden surge, no drama. And most people miss this. That's actually what makes it a better everyday cruiser. A lot of riders assume bigger engine equals better experience. I used to think that too. But when you're commuting, running errands, or just cruising through town, smoothness beats raw power almost every time. The Shadow 750 feels balanced, not intimidating, not heavy-handed. Another thing I kept thinking about was weight. On paper, it's not feather light, but compared to larger cruisers, it feels manageable. I compared it mentally to bikes like the Yamaha V-Star 950 and even some older 1100cc cruisers, and the Shadow feels less demanding at low speeds. That matters more than people admit. Low-speed confidence is everything in a cruiser. Parking lots, tight turns, stop-and-go traffic, that's where many bikes reveal their flaws. The Shadow stays composed. Now, let's talk about the design. At first glance, it almost looks unchanged. Classic teardrop tank, low seat, spoked or cast wheels depending on trim. It doesn't scream 2026, and that's where some critics check out. But I started asking myself, does it need to? Cruiser buyers often want timeless, not trendy, and I think Honda understands that better than most brands. The Shadow isn't trying to reinvent the formula every year, it's refining it quietly. Here's a misconception I see all the time. People think simple equals outdated. I don't agree. There's a difference between outdated and intentionally minimal. The Shadow keeps what works. The ergonomics are neutral, the seat height is approachable, the riding position doesn't punish your lower back after 40 minutes. I noticed that comfort isn't flashy here, it's subtle. The kind you appreciate after a longer ride, not during a spec sheet comparison. Another interesting point is reliability. I compared long-term ownership discussions, and the Shadow platform has built a reputation over years for being almost boringly dependable, and I mean that in a good way. Most people focus on horsepower wars. Very few talk about ownership stress. If you're buying a cruiser in this class, chances are you want to ride more and wrench less. The Shadow 750 feels like it was built for that mindset. Fuel efficiency is another quiet strength. Mid-size V-twins can be surprisingly thirsty. The Shadow isn't. For commuting riders or budget-conscious owners, that adds up over time. And here's something I didn't expect. The Shadow 750 actually makes sense for newer riders stepping into cruisers. Not beginners fresh out of MSF necessarily, but riders upgrading from smaller bikes. The power is manageable, the weight isn't overwhelming, it doesn't punish mistakes. That makes it approachable without feeling entry-level. Where does it fall short? If you're chasing cutting-edge tech, this isn't your bike. No giant TFT display, no ride modes, no traction control menus to scroll through. But I kept asking myself, how much of that do cruiser riders actually use? Sometimes fewer electronics means fewer distractions. You focus on the road, the sound, the rhythm of the V-twin. I noticed that I compared it mentally to more modern-styled cruisers like the Kawasaki Vulcan S, which leans into sportier handling and aggressive ergonomics. The Vulcan S feels sharper, more contemporary, but the Shadow feels calmer. And that calmness is its identity. One practical takeaway I'd give anyone considering the 2026 Honda Shadow 750 is this: don't judge it by spec sheets. Sit on it, think about your actual riding habits. Are you carving canyons every weekend? Or are you cruising city streets, back roads, and occasional highway stretches? Because this bike knows exactly what it is. It's not trying to win YouTube drag races. It's not trying to dominate spec comparisons. It's trying to be a reliable, comfortable, easy-to-live-with cruiser. And honestly, I respect that. After looking at everything, the power delivery, the weight balance, the simplicity, the long-term ownership value, I don't see the 2026 Honda Shadow 750 as outdated. I see it as confident. And sometimes the bikes that don't shout the loudest are the ones that stay in your garage the longest.